Welcome to the Explainer. Let's talk about that feeling. You know the one. That little knot in your stomach when you hire an IT services company. You're basically handing over the keys to a critical part of your world, and you just have to hope, really hope, that they have your back. But what happens when they don't? Well, that's what we're diving into. We're going to arm you with the knowledge you need to spot the red flags and protect yourself. So let's just cut right to the chase, shall we? Can you really trust your IT provider? It's a simple question, but the answer is, well, it's complicated. Look, many providers are totally ethical and do great work, but some of them, they're experts at exploiting that very trust. So let's figure out how you can tell the difference.
First off, let's be super clear about what we're up against. We are not talking about honest mistakes or a simple misunderstanding. No, we're talking about unscrupulous behavior. And really, that's just a fancy way of saying someone is deliberately taking advantage of the fact that you're not a tech wizard. It's all about them making a quick profit instead of building an actual, honest relationship. It's deception, period.
So, where does this whole shady journey usually begin? Right at the very first conversation, the sales pitch. This is where they try to set the hook, and it's exactly where you need to have your guard up.
A really common red flag is the classic bait and switch. It kind of unfolds like a bad three-act play. First, there's the lure. They dangle this unbelievably good, low-cost deal in front of you. It seems like a total no-brainer. Then comes the commitment. You sign the papers, feeling pretty pleased with yourself, thinking you scored a huge win. And then, bam, the switch. All of a sudden, that amazing offer is, oh, sorry, that's no longer available, but don't worry, they have another option for you, which is, of course, way more expensive. You're already in the door, so it's that much harder to just walk away.
And this right here just perfectly shows the huge gap between the sales hype and the cold, hard reality. They sell you this grand vision of unparalleled performance and unlimited capabilities. But then you look deep into the fine print, and what do you find? Performance may vary. And those unlimited features? Oh yeah, they require additional licensing, which is just code for you have to pay more. The big promise they sold you on is not the service you actually get.
And the fun doesn't stop there. Beyond the bait and switch, you gotta watch out for these other slimy tactics. Providers might straight up lie about certifications they don't have. Or they'll use fear, your system is dangerously insecure, you need to act now. It's all about creating a false sense of urgency. And then, of course, there's the constant aggressive push to buy add-ons you don't actually need. And those testimonials that sound just a little too perfect, trust your gut. If it feels off, it almost certainly is.
All right, let's move on. Let's say you get past the sales pitch. The deception doesn't stop. It just moves into the paperwork. This is where all the hidden costs and sneaky contract traps are just waiting for you.
Have you ever looked at an IT invoice and felt like you needed a PhD just to understand it? Yeah, that's on purpose. They use these super vague terms to hide extra costs. For instance, a service charge is just a fuzzy fee for what they call standard processing, work that honestly should have been included. An administration fee? They're literally charging you for their own paperwork. It's all just clever jargon designed to pad the bill, hoping you won't ask questions.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. That complexity you see in contracts, it's a feature, not a bug. They use confusing language to obfuscate, which is really just a fancy way to say hide, the true meaning of what you're signing. So here's the key takeaway on this. If you can't understand your contract without hiring a lawyer, that is the red flag. And you absolutely have to look out for this term, the limited liability clause. It sounds all formal and official, but what it really means is that if their product fails, or their support is awful, or their mistake costs you a ton of money, they're not responsible for it. Or if they are, it's capped at some tiny meaningless amount. This clause is all about shifting the risk from them, the provider, directly onto you, the customer.
So you've signed the confusing contract. Now what? Well, now we enter the final stage of this fun little ride. This is where all those sales tricks and contract traps become real-world headaches, with poor quality and a lot of broken promises.
It almost always starts right here. To protect their own profits, especially on that amazing deal they gave you, these providers start cutting corners. And that usually means they're using inferior materials, cheaper components, or even outdated software. And cutting those corners inevitably leads to this.
You end up with a substandard or, in the worst-case scenario, even a counterfeit product. It might look legit, but it's totally unreliable, it's going to fail, and it could even open up massive security holes in your systems. And here's the last piece of this frustrating puzzle. When those cheap products eventually break, and they will break, you're left with completely useless support. Think about it. The same company that cut corners on the product is definitely cutting corners on their support team. So you get stuck with endless wait times, unhelpful agents, and that awful feeling of being completely stranded.
And what's even worse, when you finally do get through to someone, you might run into this infuriating tactic. They blame you, the customer. They'll say things like, "Oh, you must have misused the product," or "You didn't follow the instructions correctly." It's a classic move to dodge responsibility and avoid admitting that their service is the real problem. Over the long haul, you'll start to see other signs that your provider just isn't cutting it. They can't keep up as your business grows. They start missing project deadlines and going way over budget. Those product updates they promised, they get pushed back and then pushed back again. And eventually, they might just drop support for your product entirely, leaving you completely high and dry.
Okay, I know that was a lot of doom and gloom, but here's the good news. Knowledge is power. So now, we're going to pivot from all the problems to the solution. It is time to build your defense by becoming a vigilant, informed, and empowered customer. Here is a simple but really powerful checklist you can use. Step 1, verify everything. Check their certifications, read reviews, look into their actual experience. Don't just take their word for it. Step 2, scrutinize the contract. Read every single word of that fine print. If a term seems vague, make them explain it. Step 3, ask for references. And, this is the important part, actually call them. And finally, Step 4, trust your gut. If something just feels wrong or too good to be true, walk away. It's that simple.
When it all comes down to it, here's the key takeaway. You do not have to be a tech genius to protect yourself. Your best defense is simply doing your homework. That little bit of due diligence you do up front will save you a world of pain and money down the road.
And you're not in this fight alone. There are some great organizations out there dedicated to protecting consumers. You've got government agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, that fight these kinds of unfair practices. You have industry organizations like the IEEE that help set standards. And you've got consumer advocates like the Better Business Bureau, which are fantastic for checking reviews or even reporting a bad experience.
So we're going to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Based on everything we've just covered, what is the one question you're going to ask your IT provider tomorrow? Whether it's about a confusing line item on an invoice or a weird clause in a contract, just ask. Being an active, questioning customer is your single most powerful tool.